Welcome to Your Legislators, a production of KRWG Broadcasting. Your Legislators is a public service program providing our viewing and listening audiences in southern New Mexico the opportunity to hear about important legislative issues directly from their elected representatives in Santa Fe. Now here is your host, Carlos Correa.
Welcome to Your Legislators, also being broadcast on KRWG 90.7 FM, Las Cruces. I'm Carlos Correa. With this week's guest via satellite from Santa Fe is Representative Joni Gutierrez, representing New Mexico's 33rd District. Representative Gutierrez, welcome to the program.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. Representative Gutierrez, you and other lawmakers have been pretty busy the last couple of weeks in Santa Fe. Is it fair to say that the budget is one of the main issues on the floor, and how's the process going so far?
Well, the budget is one of the main issues. However, it's not on the floor yet. Excuse me. We are still working it out in House Appropriations, and today we have some big hearings looking at some of the district attorneys' budgets, and yesterday we looked at higher ed, which included, of course, NMSU's budget. And we'll be looking at public education. I think we're scheduled to look at that tomorrow. So we still have a ways to go. And once we're done, then it'll get to the floor of the House. And then we'll vote on it there and send it to the Senate. And they'll have the second half of the session to work out some of what their priorities are.
Now, you mentioned you looked at the proposed budget from the governor and, of course, from the Finance Committee. Can you tell us the difference between the two and how it would impact the state?
Well, actually, Carlos, I don't have it right in front of me, and, you know, I'm jumping onto another committee, so I've been kind of studying another bill. But right now, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to spend the weekend looking at higher ed and trying to rectify the differences in the programs. One big concept that we're looking at, in the past when we had money, legislators put in extra money for special projects, whether they're, you know, KRWG or maybe at UNM, the Poison Control Center, and so those special projects, they're trying to roll them into the base budget and see if they're part of what their core mission is at the universities. And we're dealing with those all across the state. At every university has a special project like that, and so that has been one of our challenges with the higher ed budget.
Representative Gutierrez, in your opinion, what needs to happen in order for the state to see job growth?
Well, I think the Democrats have a lot of great job growth bills. I mean, of course, we always have our job partnership bill, which the Speaker of the House is carrying. We hope that that gets out. New Mexico State does some work with the Human Services Department, where we work with single mothers that are out of work. Maybe they don't have the job skills, and MSU's working with that program to help them get job skills. So we have a lot of bills that I think help small business, that are fair to everyone, while we're not raising taxes this year.
Representative Gutierrez, you probably get a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails from people in your district saying they just lost a job, they're looking for work. What do you say to them to kind of assure them that there's a light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I think that we have our budget, I think, has for the most part bottomed out, and we are on the upswing. We're looking at our projections, we're reining in our spending, and I think we're doing a good job as far as helping government be a little more accountable for their programs. And I think that in the next year, you're going to start seeing a turnaround with our government agencies as well as our private sector with some of the legislation that we're putting forward.
Well, that's something to look forward to. Now let's move to Spaceport America. It's going through a lot of changes. Last month, the governor removed the entire Spaceport board and recently appointed 7 people to oversee its operation. 2 of those members are from the old board. What is your stance on the project, and will it help bring jobs to New Mexico?
Well, I'm very excited about the governor's appointments. I'm glad to see that she kept, you know, our NMSU's own Ben Woods on the board. I think that with our aerospace engineering program at New Mexico State, I think that we are just positioned to help. I think there's no doubt we're creating jobs out there, and I think NMSU, being the closest university to the Spaceport America, I think that our kids are going to have a great shot at future jobs, and I think they're going to be really exciting jobs. I think there'll be jobs that we probably haven't even thought of yet, but I'm looking forward to Spaceport America being developed. I'm glad the governor is going forward with it. I think our Secretary Designee of Economic Development, being John Barella, he grew up in Las Cruces. His parents still live in Las Cruces. I think that's a big help for us down there and with our Spaceport America project.
Do you agree that the future of this project should be towards the private funding?
Well, I think that it's got to be a partnership. I mean, all our great projects in New Mexico are partnerships. If you look at Intel, when it first started, that was a partnership. If you look at the colleges that we have, they're all partnerships. So I think it's a balance. If the governor thinks that maybe private industry should step up, I think private industry is ready. I think there's been a lot of interest in some development around the spaceport facility, and I think that that's a natural way to go with Spaceport America. So I think it's always going to be a balance.
Was there ever a point where you thought maybe this project was a burden to the state?
Actually, no, not at all. I mean, I think that the future holds so much for us, and I think that space travel, so many people are so excited about it, and the opportunities for research are unbelievable. And I've never was in any doubt that this would always, based on its merit, it would always go forward.
Switching gears, Representative Gutierrez, why do you think there's so much controversy surrounding the film industry on whether or not New Mexicans should continue with its subsidies?
Well, I think that part of it is you're seeing a real effort by those communities that have had films come to their communities, support the film initiatives. And those communities that haven't had films, they don't support it. It's really quite that simple. And I think the state needs to maybe look at the state as a whole and start helping those communities that have assets that maybe a film could come in and do some work, whether it be a documentary or a big feature film. And if you're tying that together with Spaceport, I know that there is going to be a big film filmed out at Spaceport. There were some people out there looking, and I understand that one of our big feature films, one of the blockbusters, I think is going to be filming out there as soon as they get the facility complete. So, I mean, it's interesting how it all gets tied together, and I hope that Doñana County can benefit from that.
What do you think about the governor's proposal to sell the state jet and reduce the amount of pay from her top staff in order to solve this financial crunch?
Well, I think that that is not quite as simple proposal as we kind of make it to be. We listened to the governor's office and talked to them about actually all the airplanes that they have, and although we do have a jet, we have other airplanes, and believe it or not, the use of the airplanes oftentimes is for kids that are blind and deaf, when we transport them to our blind and deaf schools from rural communities. It's kind of an interesting phenomena that's going out there, and unfortunately that hasn't got that much press, but in our rural areas, if we have children that need services, those planes have been available to fly them to those communities and those facilities where they can get them. So it's people think of it as a luxury where maybe just the governor or some high official is flying around, but I think that those planes that we have are oftentimes used for our critical needs, and we need to get that out.
Gotcha. Representative Gutierrez, some lawmakers say that that lawmakers should discuss the budget, pass it, move on, and get to go home early. And one of those people is Governor Susana Martinez. Now, do you think that the discussion about the budget is going as it should?
Well, I think the budget is an important part of what we do up here. But unfortunately, that, I guess that has been getting out, but I don't quite understand it, because we come up here with needs and wants of our constituents. So we have bills that we feel are really going to help our constituents have a better life. And if the governor doesn't think that those bills are important, it's unfortunate, because she needs to look at those bills. We're doing all kinds of bills that are going to create better situations for our communities, our towns, whether it's basic infrastructure or helping them not get ripped off simply from different types of businesses or schools. We have so much legislation that helps so many people. It's critical for us to get it passed, and part of our big emphasis has been this reorganization, and we've had a little pushback from the governor's office on that. And we spent a lot of time looking at the different departments, trying not to duplicate services, and put together legislation that had some strong recommendations for departments, and put that together and go forward and help make government more efficient, more accountable. And those are the things that we do that are really important up here to our communities, and I think that the governor should get on board with us on some of those efforts, because they are her constituents as well, and the budget is just one little piece of what we're doing up here.
Let me take a second to remind our listeners on KRWG 90.7 FM Las Cruces. You're listening to Your Legislators. I'm Carlos Correa with this week's guest, Representative Joni Gutierrez from New Mexico's 33rd District. Representative, let's talk a little bit about some of the bills that you are working on in the legislature. Can you tell us a little bit about House Bill 116, which is the New Mexico Poison and Drug Information Center?
Well, that actually is one of those bills where before the state of New Mexico, different legislators felt like that was an important program, and it was a special project housed at UNM within the School of Pharmacy, where they have a 24-hour hotline where anybody in the state of New Mexico, 24 hours a day, any language, can call in with a problem, a concern, an emergency with poison use. And that was always a special project. So this bill simply puts it in as the core mission of UNM. So that's kind of a simple bill, but when I've been presenting it, I've sort of had to explain the whole budget process, because people are wondering why we have to do it. And we're trying to put it in their base budget right now, and that's what that bill is.
What are your thoughts on it? Like, is it going to be passing, or?
Oh, I think the money is already in the program. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to get it so that every year, I love the Dr. Benson from UNM, the pharmacist that's my expert witness, because he said, this is the analogy he uses, it's as if we're dating. And he is asking for us to be married so that we don't have to go through the process every year of, asking for money. And of course, we always dedicate the money for this because it's such an important program.
Now, two of your bills, if I'm correct, are amendments, correct? Bill 279 and 344. And 279 is the single duty of water within one district.
Right.
And then the 344 is the all-inclusive elderly care. Can you tell us a little bit about those two?
Okay, the all-inclusive elderly care, it's kind of interesting because Medicaid pays for a program called PACE, and PACE is a home health care program supported by actually it's Medicaid that supports it, and we've had a pilot program, of course, in Albuquerque. So what I'm trying to do is get that program in Doña County. So when you read the bill, it's kind of a boring sort of bill that doesn't really say that. But if that bill passes, what we'll do is we will get Medicaid-supported home health care in Doña County, and actually statewide. I felt like it wasn't really fair that we were just doing that in Albuquerque, so that's that bill. Let's see, the House Bill 279 is looking at a fair distribution of water for the farmers, and that one's going to be a little more complicated because we're still in the middle of the adjudication process, and it's scheduled to go to court in June, so I'm not sure I'll get that one through, but we're just trying to get fair distribution of our irrigation water for agriculture.
Gotcha. There's also a bill that may impact those who are attending higher education, and that's House Bill 388. Can you tell us a little bit about the college textbook purchase gross receipts?
Sure. The campus bookstores do not, according to our state statute, do not charge taxes for textbooks. Off-campus bookstores have to charge taxes. This is a fairness bill, a small business bill. This bill will allow those small privately owned bookstores to not charge taxes on textbooks. It's that simple.
And then there's House Bill 441, the development fee affordable housing defined. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, according to the City of Las Cruces, affordable housing, hard to believe, is defined many different ways in our statute. And this is kind of one of those cleanup bills where we're trying to mirror that definition in some other legislation that's already been passed. So that's a kind of a simple one.
Gotcha, okay. And then you have one that you're introduced, the 291, the Limited Scope Pregnancy Services Center?
Right. That one is when pregnancy centers that are set up as those helplines for young or any women that are pregnant, that they have to disclose actually what they're doing. Sometimes there's been a little question on what actual type of services they provide. Most of them do not provide medical services. They just provide advice. And so we're asking them to be upfront with what type of advice that they are offering.
And then there's one last one, and correct me if I'm missing one, but House Bill 159, which is mobile home rent increase protection.
Right. Yeah, we have a lot of mobile homes in my district where we feel like there's some unfair practices going on, and this is just holding mobile home parks accountable for when they do a rent increase, how they collect rent, different practices that they need to follow so that it's fair, they don't charge too much if people are late for their rent, that type of thing. And that was brought forward by mobile home owners. They typically own the mobile home, but they don't own the land, so they brought that forward, and I'm actually co-sponsoring that with an Albuquerque representative, Bill O'Neill. So I think mobile home parks have some issues throughout New Mexico, and we're just beginning to look at some of those challenges and make sure that our constituents are treated fairly.
Out of curiosity, last week we had a winter storm that caused a lot of outages, and a lot of people lost water and electricity. Did you get any phone calls from your offices complaining about that from mobile homes?
Actually, there were mobile homes in my district that were impacted, I understand, and there were some calls. It seemed like up here it was a little bit worse. I did run home last weekend, 2 broken pipes in my home as well, and I think a lot of people in Las Cruces. The information that got out, I think, too late as far as how to deal with frozen pipes, and I wish that we were a little more proactive on that situation, and hopefully in the future we'll work on those practices to make sure that we kind of get in front of it. I mean, I for one didn't know we should have left some water running, or stuff like that, and we're spoiled in southern New Mexico on as far as our temperatures, that's for sure. So it was an eye-opening to us. So I think one thing I did get a lot of calls on was the electrical blackouts. And I have spoken to El Paso Electric, and people realized they were having rolling blackouts, but the communication was a little bit weak when it described what a rolling blackout was, and finally some constituents, actually in Mesilla Park, called me one night and said their electricity had been off for over an hour, and that when I finally got in touch with El Paso Electric, they said that was not a rolling blackout. So I think they could have communicated a little bit better with some of how they handled the electrical situation down there. I know they're working on it with our help. Hopefully that won't happen again.
What do you think needs to happen in terms of maybe this not happening the next time there's a big winter storm in our area?
Well, I'm not an expert on their system, and I'm still trying to figure out, I heard their explanation like everyone else, and if you're not an expert, you're thinking, okay, now what actually happened, how it was related to the gas, and the gas people they have contacted the legislators in northern New Mexico. They haven't really talked to me from southern New Mexico. I have been in touch with, of course, El Paso Electric, but I'm not really sure. They're just going to have to plan a little better and more proactive. And, we expect them. We think of them every day that they're just going to be there. I guess we don't really think of them. And they, I think if we hold them to that high standard, they need to step up and be held accountable to that high standard.
Representative Gutierrez, one of your colleagues is proposing a bill that would allow people the option to donate their tax refunds to public schools. Do you think that that's part of the answer to improving education around the state?
Well, you know what? It's interesting that you say that, because I was reading an article just last night about Colorado Springs, and they apparently, that community is in a lot worse shape than some of our communities, and they are cutting basic services as far as taking care of parks, curb and gutters, and their citizens have stepped up. And so I think that it's probably a good idea for our communities to look at maybe asking our citizens to, those that can, step up and start maybe helping out at even minimal levels of, those type of things, maintaining parks maybe. They were talking about how they took the trash cans out of the parks, and people went in and put trash cans in and are taking care of those things. So, we're not probably in that dire of a situation, but when there's opportunities that we can help our communities, I think we should. And I was deeply disappointed that the bond issue didn't pass, because that's always an opportunity that we can help our schools and our communities. So
In the remainder of our less than 2 minutes that we have here with you today, can you tell us a little bit, there was a rally here just yesterday in Las Cruces, folks who are disagreeing with some of the things that the governor is proposing as far as immigration is concerned. And one of them is revoking driver's licenses for those illegally, undocumented here in New Mexico. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, we've had tremendous support on both sides of that issue. I was not in the legislature when that passed, but I understand that when that passed, the audience was full of law enforcement, that the law enforcement people wanted us to give photo ID, driver's license to anybody who walked in the door that wanted to drive in New Mexico. And it's interesting because I have not heard from them specifically. I'd be interested to know if they still have those strong feelings. I think times have changed. People are more fearful with our border issues in southern New Mexico. So I think, you know, a lot of people are sort of hesitant to do that, but we still have a lot of support for giving out driver's license to people that are here. And there's a lot of proposals, whether they're temporary driver's license or some type of different driver's license to those people that are not citizens. But I have not had the opportunity in my committees to vote on any of those bills, so I'm looking forward to that opportunity and hearing specifically both sides of that debate.
I think we can sit here all day and talk about issues going on in Santa Fe. Unfortunately,
we
have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know you're busy with committee meetings all day today, right?
Right.
All right,
thank you so much, Carlos. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and that's all the time.
You have a great crew up here.
All right, that's all the time we have. Thanks for joining us on KRWG.
Thank you.
Legislators is a production of KRWG Broadcasting. Copyright New Mexico State University Board of Regents.